Hello once again, NASCAR fans. Welcome back to another episode of the NASCAR Show on the Grueling Truth. I'm Alex Gray, along here with race car driver Michael Klein. Can't speak today. Glad to have you back, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having me back.
What's that?
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yeah, no problem. All right, so this is an off-season edition of the show, of course. Not as much going on, despite a lot of silly season news. One of the biggest things that has come up recently is Hailie Deegan. Hailie Deegan is moving from Toyota. Toyota losing another top prospect, a potential future superstar who's very popular on social media. Hailie Deegan will be moving over to the Ford development camp. I think this could be a smart move for her. I think there's a lot more opportunities. She will drive full-time in ARCA. She'll drive the number 4 Monster Energy IK9 Ford. So that's another thing. IK9's moving over with her over to DGR Crosley, who is also moving over to Ford. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't really say it was really unprecedented just because, Toyota has so many drivers and yet so few rides, moving up. And, I mean, this is something that I think we saw on the midget side as well, is that Keith Coons, who, runs the Toyota development program, in that division, recently lost Logan Seavey. He was a huge driver with them. Jesse Caldwell. And, they've also had Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson move on from that. So just showing that I think Toyota, is signing too many drivers, to really properly give them each the attention they need, to continue moving up. And I think that's something that Hailie noticed. Now, when you look at Ford, they really don't have anybody right now. I think they have Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe. I think Majeski left since he's going with Nice Motorsports now. So now you have Hailie Deegan. She's with two other great competitors, I might add. So I definitely think it's going to be a good move for her going forward. And, I mean, honestly, the Ford camp is starting to gain ground as well. I think we've seen that with Stewart-Haas Racing and Penske kind of challenging, Gibbs for the top mantle in NASCAR.
Yeah, exactly. According to Adam Stern, it says that if everything goes as planned, she'd like to run 2 full years in trucks, 2 full years in Xfinity before graduating the Cup. Under this timeline, she wouldn't be in a Cup car until probably 2025 or 2026, which at that point, I think for certainty, you look at Stewart-Haas down the road, a ride will be open for her. If you look at their lineup right now, you got the 4 of Harvick, who is probably going to retire here in the near future. You got Boyer. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Briscoe ends up replacing him here very soon. You got Amarola in the 10, and then, of course, you got Cole Custer, a rookie, in the 41. So Stewart-Haas's future could look like Deegan, Briscoe, and Custer at least, which to me is a powerful lineup. This is a team that has been on the rise. They had a powerful 2018 season. 2019, they weren't as strong, but still a very strong team. And I think, especially if Hailie Deegan turns out, she is supposedly supposed to be this next big superstar that NASCAR needs. So it's going to be interesting to watch later on down the road.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I'm particularly looking forward to seeing Briscoe there just because, I've raced with him. I've gotten to know him over the past few months. He's a great dude. He's got so much talent. It's going to be so awesome seeing him up there. They only signed Boyer to another 1-year deal. That kind of tells me that this is going to be Boyer's last season with Stewart-Haas Racing at least. So I think they're kind of putting him in that position to replace him. And honestly, Briscoe is going to be a major contender for the Xfinity Championship this year. I mean, because now you have Custer, Bell, and Reddick moving up the Cup. I mean, let's face it, Briscoe was probably the best of the rest.
Yeah.
In Xfinity this year. So, it's looking great for all these drivers.
Yeah, I would say for certainty, Chase Briscoe is going to be a driver to watch next season for sure. Another guy, we'll get into that here in a little bit too. But the Xfinity Series is going to be interesting to watch because obviously this past season it was dominated by Bell, Custer, and Reddick, which all three of them have now graduated to the NASCAR Cup Series, which is now what it's just going to be called. So, yeah, the Xfinity's going to be wide open for 2020. But I think Chase Briscoe is definitely the first driver you want to discuss about in terms of who could run for the championship. So, yeah, that's probably a big piece of news there with Hailie Deegan moving from Toyota to the Ford camp. Some other exciting news. This was announced last week or so. Busch Beer is announcing that they are going to return to sponsoring the season-opening exhibition Clash. So the Busch Clash name is back. They first sponsored the Clash in 1979. They held that asset through 2011 when it later became the Budweiser Shootout. So that's kind of cool, a little blast of the past there. On February 9th, 2020, the Busch Clash at Daytona. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm really appreciative of Busch Beer. They've really been stepping it up, giving back to the sport. It's a great brand for NASCAR. Obviously, with the especially with the different paint schemes that they got to run with Kevin Harvick last season as well.
Yeah, I mean, Busch has been one of the best partners for NASCAR. You know, not even just lately, just really for all time. Yeah. And and even if you see my habits, yeah, because whenever I drink a beer, I usually try to drink a Busch.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like Busch Beer is a very good brand like that to connect to the NASCAR fan base, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other news: Felix Sabates is stepping down from long-time ownership in NASCAR. He's taking the rest of his stake in Chip Ganassi Racing. Let's see here. Ganassi now has slightly more than 80%, and now Rob Kaufman's stake is slightly under 20%. Felix Sabates, of course, the longtime owner of Team Safco, and later on ran the team with Chip Ganassi since 2001. Obviously one of the most well-respected owners in the garage, where he will be missed around the garage area, but obviously a huge congratulations on his successful career as an owner in NASCAR.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird, you know, just knowing it as Chip Ganassi Racing without Felix Sabates. I mean,
yeah,
you know, he's the guy who is really the whole reason that team exists. So certainly gonna be weird.
Yeah, and you know, someone pointed out really well on Twitter. I wish I could pull it up now, where 2020 is truly an end of an era in the sport, because you know all the guys we grew up with, you know, especially ending with Johnson's retirement for 2020. And now Sabates, now of course no Gordon, no Earnhardt Jr., no Stewart, Kenseth, Edwards, Biffle. You know, you might have Harvick and Newman for a little bit longer, but besides that, it is truly
Busch.
Yeah, Busch as well. You got Kurt and Kyle for a little while as well, and of course you got the rising young stars like Elliott, Larson, Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Custer, Bell, Reddick. I can go on. It's going to be interesting to see how the Cup Series is going to shape out, especially in the future. Not in terms of drivers, but I think in owners as well. Like, you know, some of these owners they're getting up there in age, and you start to wonder, you know, what's Hendrick Motorsports going to look like? Is he going to hand the team off to Jeff Gordon, like it's been said? Penske, I would assume maybe he hands off the team to Tim Cindric. You know, Richard Childress probably hands it off to the Dillon brothers, and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, it's really a changing of the guard we got coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we also have we're also going to have this new sponsorship format, the new car, new schedule. So really, everything's just changing.
Yeah,
now,
and
this is going to be like the last year for, you know, just traditional NASCAR.
Mm-hmm. And even, you know, Iceberg came out with a video today really, it was a summary of, what changes and what we saw from 2010 to 2019 in the 2010s decade. And, even then, within the course of 10 years or so, NASCAR changed a lot. And now we're going to see it change even more going into the future, where it's like, I started watching in the summer of 2004, and now as we're heading into 2020, oh my God, it feels like you're in a whole different world now. That's really what it feels like.
Yeah, for me, just someone who began watching it in the late 90s, that's really as far as I can remember. So, I've seen them go through different sponsors, different formats.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I never really experienced too much of the Winston Cup days, except for NASCAR Thunder 2004. But I started watching when the Chase came along with the Nextel Cup and the Sprint Cup, Monster Energy Cup. Now you got the NASCAR Cup Series and the major tier sponsors. I'm trying to remember what they were. I think they were Busch, Coca-Cola, Geico, and Xfinity, I think. Like those 4 top-tier sponsors. Let's see here. Other news, James Davison, it's been said here on Racing Boys Broadcasting Network that he will run the Daytona 500 and the Indianapolis 500 for 2020 as a new partnership, makes its first NASCAR foray in the Great American Race. Davison has
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that time around, 2008 to 2010, where you saw names like Juan Pablo Montoya, Jacques Villeneuve, Patrick Compartier, Dario Franchitti, and, of course, Danica Patrick, and all these open-wheel drivers, trying NASCAR. Could we see that again possibly in the near future? Could we see, I don't know, this sounds a little crazy. What if Lewis Hamilton wanted to do the Daytona 500 or Fernando Alonso even? Could we see that?
Yeah, well, he said he wants to.
Yeah, and especially, with the next gen coming out, I think that's going to be even a higher possibility. We may see that because I won't lie, I would love to see stuff like that more often because the Daytona 500 is NASCAR. Yeah, it's NASCAR's equivalent to the Indy 500. So, you're kind of like, hey, I want to, try one of the crown jewels of motorsports. At least I would consider the Daytona 500. I just think we could see that eventually, and it's starting here possibly with James Davison. So very intrigued to see how he'll do in a stock car. I'm trying to remember if it was said what he's going to drive or who he's going to drive for in 2020.
I don't think that's been announced. I think it was rumored that he would go with Rick Ware Racing, but I think one of their representatives denied that.
Yeah. Especially that it also got announced that Joey Gase will be driving one of Rick Ware's cars for 2020.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, and by the way,
I've gotten to know Joey Gase over the past couple of years. He's a really cool dude, so to see him get this opportunity is awesome. But, just kind of go back into what you were saying. There's a lot of guys who have said they would love to move over and give NASCAR a shot. Like, I've actually been getting to know Connor Daly lately, and he's been telling me about how he wants to start moving up into NASCAR. Along with James Hinchcliffe, he was actually supposed to run the Roval until he found out Robert Wickens' wedding was also that day. So that kind of kept that from happening. And actually, funny story here actually with the James Davison thing is that I was actually at the PRI show when that news broke, and we're walking around Lucas Oil Stadium with Colin Garrett and Bryant Barnhill with Sam Hunt, and I break that news to them, and Colin looks at me and he's like, who? And I'm just kind of taken aback because Colin is a huge open wheel fan, so you think he would at least know who James Davison is.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was being sarcastic or whatever, but
yeah, you mentioned you mentioned Connor Daly. You know, he's talked about it. And I can definitely – James Hinchcliffe, to me, was always a guy that I thought could try NASCAR at some point. Whether it's, you know, like you said, the Roval in the Xfinity Series or even Daytona or whatnot, it was just something that I always saw happening. Is someone like Hinchcliffe potentially trying it.
Yeah, and so it's out there. This would be a great year for him to try that because it doesn't look like he's going to have a full-time IndyCar ride. So really it could be a good way to get out and try something new. You know, try NASCAR out and see how that goes.
Yeah, see if it fits for you. You know, you never know. Hinchcliffe may find a resurgence in his career, you know, if you were to try like a part-time schedule. Here's another one. I just remembered this. It was like 2011 when this happened. Remember when Kimi Räikkönen tried NASCAR? He ran the truck race for KTM at Charlotte, and then he ran the Xfinity race for the 87.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I was so excited to see that.
God, I just imagine, like, what if Kimi Räikkönen actually, like, invested further? Like, what if he was like, yeah, I'll try it. You know,
he said he's interested. He said he's interested when his Formula One career ends, which it looks like this is going to be his final season because he'd only signed a 2-year deal with Alfa Romeo. So, who knows, maybe after this year we see him in NASCAR.
And then he's been racing in F1 for a very long time. I know he won the U.S. Grand Prix, I think, in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one guy from really, I think, my childhood who I grew up watching in Formula One who's still there.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't too big on F1, but I knew about it. I knew some of the drivers. I knew stuff that was going on. You know, I know names like, you know, Michael Schumacher, even Montoya, Fernando Alonso, and, you know, Raikkonen even. You know, those were some of the drivers that, you know, I remember from way back when. Really, my first instance of F1, unfortunately, was because I toured the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum in the summer of 05. I think it was 05.
Oh.
Yeah, that was right before, I think it was right before the Grand Prix happened. And then, like, I was told about, like, wait, 6 cars ran in it. And later on, it's like, oh, that happened. That's what happened. So, as you know, we kind of got a little off topic, but I think, Kimi Räikkönen could definitely get NASCAR shot again.
Yeah, and also just going to throw this out there, Indy deserves a second chance in Formula One.
Oh, yeah. And, oh, gosh, what was I going to talk about? Okay. Yeah, you mentioned Connor Daly. His father, Derek, because you and I actually discussed about this, and I kind of want to bring this into light a little bit. There was a road course about 10 years ago or so that was built but never completed in Kentucky. It was called the Bluegrass Motorsports Park, and the track was designed by Derek Daly, funny enough.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can do some, because it's like, if you're wondering, those of you people in Kentucky, it's like 10 minutes from Kentucky Speedway, and it's literally right off. Like, I could see the banking from where the track is off of 71 at this time. So the Bluegrass Motorsports Park, it was like a 3.54 mile multi-configuration road course. The front straight was apparently one of the longest in North America, and it was designed by Formula One driver Derek Daly.
Man, that's awesome.
And, in terms of what happened to it, there were some stories about how they lost funding. It was never fully paved. Of course, since then, the track's been kind of washed out. But I figured I'd bring that to light because, honestly, I think it'd be cool if, you know, someone actually looked into it and was like, hey, what if this track got completed? What could race here? And I've heard about a couple other things involving, like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was like the sewage or something, or how the rain was treating the track. But, yeah, I know funding was like a huge issue.
Man, I mean, I would also love to see somebody, bring up some funding and try to get that project restarted, because that would be awesome for this area.
Yeah, it really would. I mean, it looks like a track, because I've seen some pictures of it, even a couple pictures where they had, like, different designs of what the track would have had. Like, it looked like it had a couple karting configurations that was going to be part of the plan. I mean, I'm looking at this, and it looked like Le Mans could have ran there, or the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, IndyCar even. Obviously, one issue probably would be Kentucky Speedway being nearby. But even then, just imagine. Now, of course, as well, the Corvette.
Well, yeah, but I mean, IMSA's not going to go to Kentucky Speedway.
Oh, no. There's no Roval at Kentucky Speedway.
Yeah. So, yeah, if we're talking about just a course for the road course series, and I mean, if they brought IndyCar back to Kentucky Speedway, which I've been hearing could happen, you could have some of the road to Indy, which doesn't race on Rovals, and you could take them and run them there that weekend.
Yeah, totally. I think that would work. Yeah.
Or heck, you know what? Let's do something like Detroit. You run Kentucky Speedway one day, the next day you go to Bluegrass Motorsports Complex, or you do it the other way around.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be great.
Oh, yeah, I love stuff like that. God, yeah, like, we talked about, like, what if we did, like, a YouTube video on it, kind of, like, inspired off of stuff that Slapshoes has done on his YouTube channel. We've had him on here before. My biggest concern is that it might be closed off, and I don't want us getting busted for trespassing.
Yeah. That's something that maybe if I'm, like, heading down south at any point soon, and I'm going by there, maybe it's something I could at least check out.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to drive
like
to St.
do
Louis.
Sort of a scouting mission.
Yeah, I'm actually going to drive to St. Louis here in a couple of days, and I'm probably going to take 71 and drive right by it.
Oh.
Because I actually, when I drove back for Thanksgiving, I loaded up my Google Maps just to find it, and I couldn't see the track itself, but you could tell where the hill was to where the track is. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's right there. It's a shame that so many people, like, drive by it, and it's probably that nobody potentially, knows about it. But yeah, it's literally right off of I-71 if you're heading towards Louisville or Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's about as forgotten as Air Base Speedway.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a fun little piece of fact I wanted to bring up here on the show about Bluegrass Motorsports Park. And, of course, I know the Corvette Museum has also built their own little track as well down in Bowling Green, which I've seen once because I visited the Corvette Museum with my dad, and they were still fixing the place after the sinkhole occurred.
Yeah.
So
I actually drove by the Corvette Museum earlier this year. It looks like a really nice facility.
It really is. Gosh, yeah, I've been in there once, and it's a really fun experience.
Yeah, I was supposed to test a Formula car there last year, and then we got rained out.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right, so moving on to more silly season conversations, Daniel Suarez is a big question mark right now. Out of a ride, had the 1 year with Stewart-Haas. Assuming he still has the Era sponsorship, where could he go? I've heard rumors about RCR potentially, like a full-time Xfinity ride. What are your thoughts on what could happen to Suarez?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it would be best for him just to go back to Xfinity or trucks. Just kind of rebuild his career, show he still has it.
I agree. I think Suarez, honestly, I do agree that I think Suarez was rushed a little bit to Cup after Carl Edwards retired. because I'm pretty sure Eris wanted him up after he won the Xfinity title. But I think if he had spent just one more year in Xfinity, then maybe things would have turned out a little bit better for him. But yeah, I've heard a rumor about him taking the 2 at RCR and Xfinity. Somebody mentioned that he could have taken the 00 for Stewart-Haas, but now I've heard that ride is closing down, and I think it's just going to be Briscoe for Stewart-Haas and Xfinity next season. A lot of stuff still going on in terms of silly season. It still needs to be cleared up. And, to be honest, Daytona's not that far away still. You got, let me see here, check the calendar. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks maybe. So time will tell for Suarez. I do hope that he will get another chance at a top ride.
Yeah, certainly hoping to see that. Mm-hmm. He's got a ton of potential. I just think he kind of got rushed up the Cup. So
yeah,
it's hard to kind of overcome. So
yeah, I definitely believe there's still something in him, and I still think Suarez can definitely compete. Looking at the Cup Series next season, it looks like we're going to have about 6 or 7 rookies, actually. You got the big 3, Reddick, Bell, Custer. You got John Hunter Nemechek. If you didn't hear, Brendan Poole is actually going to drive for Premium Motorsports Cup next season. So he's going to get a chance to run in Cup. Supposedly Quinn Houff, even though he ran a pretty good amount of races in the 77 for Spire. And I believe Garrett Smithley is going to drive for Rick Ware as well in the Cup Series.
I would love to see that.
Yeah. Garrett's a great guy. I love the video he did with JonTron.
Oh, yeah.
Ago. That was awesome. I love stuff like that on it.
Garrett's become a really good friend of mine, so I would love to see him get that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Rick Ware has Jason Smithley running full-time, I think. Because I know they're going to run like 3 cars. And I think J.J. Yaley, I think. Yeah, I think it's Yaley, Smithley, and Case. And maybe if they run the 54, it'll be split among other guys like McLeod and Cody Ware, in which, speaking of Rick Ware Racing, they're also going to run in IMSA. I believe they have a car entered for the Rolex 24. Let me find that real quick. Yeah, they're going to expand into the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship Series for 2020. They actually released a car. It looks like it's sponsored by Whelen, Pods, and Jacob Companies. They will race in the 24 Hours of Daytona. So very interesting that they're going to bring in this car. Let's see. Piloting the number 2 LMP2 prototype for both testing and the race will be James Davison. We just mentioned him. Cody Ware. Mark. I'm not sure to pronounce that. Kvamme. I'm going to butcher it, and I apologize. Kavami, maybe. And Jonathan Hoggard. They also compete full-time in the Asian Le Mans Series because I saw Cody Ware make some tweets about being over there. So what are your thoughts on that? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I know they've been running some Asian Le Mans Series, and they actually did pretty good. I think they finished second.
And that's honestly pretty impressive for Rick Ware running in there. So, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, I know this is kind of what Cody Ware has always enjoyed is the road racing. So seeing him get a shot in that, I think we're going to see what he can really do.
Oh, certainly, and I'm really excited that he's going to get the opportunity to run in the Rolex 24 as well, because that's a huge event that Daytona hosts every January. So, definitely going to be on the lookout for that. Yeah, Rick Ware Racing, November 24th, P2 and LMP2 AM Class in Shanghai. Great job, boys, podium finish. That's a huge deal for those guys. So, way to go, Rick Ware Racing. Good job, guys. We definitely need to bring in Cody Ware on the show at some point too.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, if we do that, we're probably going to expand over into anime and stuff like that. But, hey, I'm fine with that.
I can talk about My Hero Academia at that point. Let's see here.
I actually was texting his brother Carson, and he got me into Sword Art Online.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, Carson where? Yeah, he made an arc to start at Kansas, right?
Yeah, and he made a truck start at ISM.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely. Heck, I'd like to bring them both on potentially. I think that would be a fun show to have. We'll definitely work on that. Let's see. Bob Pocker.
Yeah, tell you what we need to do. We need to get them and Slot back on here, and then we're just going to do like a Weeb special.
Yes, that would be perfect. Let's see here. Bob Pockris said, NASCAR told me this week that no decision yet on whether Quinn Alf is eligible for Rookie of the Year. The rules have been relaxed to give NASCAR discretion. Reddick ran 17 races and won a race in Xfinity in 2017 and was Rookie of the Year in 2018. So that tells me that Quinn Alf could potentially be be eligible, So that's interesting because in the past, Carl Edwards ran like 13 races in 2004. He wasn't eligible for Rookie of the Year in 2005. I think more recently, Trevor Bayne wasn't eligible when he became a full-time Cup driver. So a little bit of interesting news there. Let's see. All right, I'm trying to figure out what else I need to catch you guys up on. Joey Logano made a test in the next-gen car, a new version of it. And there was even, like, video footage of him going around the track. So if you saw that, what are your thoughts on the next-gen car so far? Like, what do you think of it?
I think it looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just because this is something I'm surprised no one's really brought up, is that I have a friend who works with a big race team. I'm not going to go into it for privacy reasons, but it looks like they're actually going to be switching to a 6-speed sequential transmission, similar to what they use in the V8 supercars.
Okay, that's interesting. Because, as I said before, it looks like they really want to bring the, quote, stock back in stock car. Even though we've made the joke, there's nothing stock about a stock car. Just by looking at it, I mean, the car sounds amazing. Obviously, I want to see more tests. And what I'd like to see, I don't know if NASCAR could figure this out or not, but have a small test race. Get the cars built, even manufacturer-wise, because I know the manufacturers are currently working on the 2021 models, and just run a test race at a couple tracks and see, okay, how does the racing look? Does it look good? Is it a good product? Just an idea. Because I know they don't do because they used to do a bunch of mid-season testing, because I think when we were kids, the Cup Series would come to Kentucky and test during the summer.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I also like that the car actually has the wheels like you would see on a street with the rims and everything. That was interesting. Because I'm just like, oh, wow, that's actually different. All right. Let's see. Anything else you think we need to cover, potentially?
Not really. So I just do want to bring up is, like I said, I was at the PRI show last week, and if everything goes according to plan, I might have some partnership announcements to make over the next few weeks.
Okay, awesome. That's excellent news to hear. So we'll stay tuned for some upcoming news in the coming weeks for Michael here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Also announced today, Carson Hocevar will join Nice Motorsports for a 9-race schedule in 2020. I think Ross Chastain's going to drive with them part-time. It's been announced. That's where Ty Majeski's going as well full-time. Oh, gosh. Okay, one more thing I forgot to talk about. Unfortunately, yesterday, the NASCAR community had the passing of Junior Johnson. former driver and car owner in the sport. He's been in the sport for a very long time. Junior Johnson was part of the inaugural Hall of Fame class in 2010. He was 88 years of age. Our thoughts and prayers go to his family and all of the NASCAR community at this time. Definitely a well-respectable person in the garage area, week in, week out, and one of the most respected people in the entire sport of NASCAR.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at his whole career, he had an amazing driving career, with 50 wins and a Daytona 500, and even that was overshadowed, by his legendary owner career.
Yeah.
I mean, he's truly a pioneer of the sport and just such an icon to NASCAR.
Yeah.
It's definitely left a huge void in the sport, and, we certainly want to send our prayers to his family.
Definitely. We definitely want to send prayers out to his family. Definitely. Junior Johnson was an amazing car owner, especially. I think someone said, before Roger Penske, there was Junior Johnson. Just to put it in a comparison. So he will definitely be missed, and we're keeping him in our thoughts here as we wrap up our show. All righty. Let's see. Any final thoughts, Michael?
I think that's it.
All righty. So from the both of us, we also want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year as well as we get closer to
Absolutely.
2020. Yep. What are you doing for Christmas?
Well, I went to my family's in Champaign a couple weeks ago, and that's just kind of the family thing we do. For Christmas, I think we're just going to be kind of at home. We might go over to, some of our relatives' places. I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, here in a couple of days, I'm going to hop in my car and drive 5.5 hours to St. Louis, home of the defending Stanley Cup champions. And I'm going to go to my dad's, visit a bunch of relatives. I can think about 2 or 3 different places we're going to go to for Christmas. So it's always been a tradition of mine. We're going to St. Louis and seeing everybody and having a good time because I think, spending time with family is very important, especially for this time of year. So besides that, thank you guys so much for listening to this off-season edition of the NASCAR show on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. From Michael Klein and myself, Alex Gray, we're signing off, and we'll see you next time. Happy holidays, everybody.